Okay, here's the topic. Very, very simple. Is Erika Kirk a psychopath, a sociopath, or just a pathological liar? Something that we have just never seen, or some kind of combination or hybrid, because this is so critical and it's fascinating. And I have spent, I don't know, a lot of my adult life either in the criminal court system dealing with the clients and defendants in DSM-5, and whether somebody's a pathological killer or whether they're just effed up, and which, by the way, probably is the best description. But in the Erika Kirk case, it is phenomenally fascinating because you're saying, I can't believe it. And as Candace brings up, she can apparently go not a 180, but a 180. One day being absolutely anti, for lack of a better word, either Israel or anti-Zionist, and then like that, maybe after a phone call, maybe after a new script, changing everything. So is it because she suffers from psychopathy, sociopathy, pathological liar, or she just has no soul or is stupid? I mean, we have never seen this. Think about this. We're not talking about somebody who exaggerates. We're talking about somebody who makes things up as to the role of a wife, a role of a parent, making up these companies that are running now like clockwork that allow her to do whatever she does. She tells people, do not, mothers, do not forego, do not absent yourself from the lives of your children. Your no career is worth this. And now she's running TPUSA. And you're saying, wait a minute. And then you're thinking, is it me? Am I? And then you wonder, is it AI? Is it TPUSA? Is anybody saying anything that is remotely the truth? And if you really want to laugh, watch that poor Patrick Bet David, as we say, Mishkin. This guy and this crew, I don't know where he found these. Maybe they were at a Home Depot, ready to do, drywall work. And he said, hey, you want to do a podcast with me? Because they don't know anything. I mean, they can't, it's, in fact, I should be fair because I only see it if somebody brings it up. It's just, I mean, these folks who are diagnosing what's wrong with Erika, and is it, what's your agenda? Is it anti-Semitism? I'm thinking, look, officially that dog don't hunt anymore, as we say in the South. So let's just talk about this. And Candace brings up a great point. Is she a psychopath? Because this chilling, horrible performance is fracturing and destroying whatever was left of TPUSA. Now, let's go through this carefully. And this, by the way, goes beyond just Erika. It goes, people say that Hillary Clinton's a psychopath. And what does that even mean? So in the frenetic, chaotic aftermath of Charlie's dispatch in September of last year, think about this. It says 9 months ago, and it seems like it was yesterday or it seems like it was 10 years ago, depending upon your frame of reference. But as you know, Erika stepped into the spotlight as the new CEO of TPUSA. Now, whether she did it because at Charlie's behest, that's a separate issue. Is it AI? There's no indication that, I don't believe any of it. I don't believe any video of Charlie saying, oh, and by the way, I appoint my wife. I think she'd be great. I mean, stop it. Not only that, Candace has been painstaking in her dissection and her adumbration of why she does not believe that to be true. But anyway, what should have been a moment of solemn continuity for a grieving widow and a movement under fire has instead become this theater of kind of painful speculation and outright revulsion for a lot of people. Simply put, we can't believe what we're seeing. I'm telling you right now, take all of the, I don't want to say women because that's not fair, but anybody, but whether it's Meghan Markle, Kim Kardashian, Paris Hilton, I don't know who, Hillary Clinton, people don't change drastically their positions on things. They might exaggerate, but nobody in the history, in the annals of human behavior, nobody exhibits the behavior that Erika Kirk does. She just makes stuff up. I don't know if you remember this years ago on SNL. Who was it? John Lovely goes, yeah, that's it. That's the ticket. Morgan Fairchild. Yeah, I was an entrepreneur. Yeah, I formed a company. Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur, and the company's still going on. Yeah, that's it. That's right. I'm an entrepreneur. What's the name of your company, huh? It's something or other. And I'm a Catholic, or maybe not. And she goes, and by the way, normally when somebody goes into transition, and listen, if you don't find yourself being troubled by what's happening in the Middle East, you're not paying attention. Even people, I know people who, believe it or not, have steadfast opinions as to the best approach. Even they sometimes think, well, no, but this, not her. And by the way, she'll go from pro or con. It's like in the Vietnam War. I'm for the war, tomorrow I'm against the war. I say, what happened? What do you mean what happened? You just said yesterday you're for the war. When? Yesterday. Huh? You don't remember what you said? About what? About the war. Yesterday. Huh? And then they make you feel like, and is it me? Maybe I'm stunad. Maybe I should see my doctor. So then we have videos of her public appearances, and they show kind of like this flat affect when discussing personal tragedies. She's laying off the kabuki crying, the lacrimation. Remember, my friends, remember what I told you about that. She never has a runny nose. She never blows her nose. She's the only person who cries without any kind of a nasal mucosal connection. I don't want to go into the mechanics of it, but you know what I'm talking about. So anyway. But these depictions of her personal tragedies, these abrupt tonal shifts, atonal, if you will, and this overly rehearsed, this kabuki choreographed emotional displays that failed to land, and this demeanor. And by the way, this is the key word in any kind of a psychological evaluation or psychiatric. It's her affect, the demeanor that strikes people as detached from the ultimate gravity, the severity of instant widowhood, leadership, and the fact that her children just lost their father. Now, you might ask yourself, well, what does it? How do I say this? What enables you? What entitles you to pass judgment on reactions? You're a human being. There's a jury instruction. Jurors are asked, watch the witness. What do you think? What do you think about this? Is it believable? Did the person have... You get to weigh credibility. Did the person have the opportunity to observe or experience what they say? You judge credibility. We all do it. We do it every single day, from kids who are lying to husbands or spouses or wives or bosses. We can detect deception. And I'm going to say this with all due respect and not in any way meant to be, what's the word? Not sexist or anything like that. I'm not saying that. But women are the best when it comes to this. Women are the best at detecting deception, and I'll let you try to figure out why. We'll talk about that later. So the question that's echoing across all circles, conservative or otherwise, with body language analyses and all this and the threads, is a very blunt question. Is Erika Kirk a psychopath or a sociopath, or is she simply a calculating, pathological liar who just doesn't care just somebody who says, I don't care. Clinical diagnosis from afar, as people know, is virtually impossible. I gotta say this. And for physicians, they will say it's kind of unethical because psychopathy and sociopathy often overlap under antisocial personality disorder, and they kind of require evaluation. And by the way, these are terms of art. Psychopathy, psychopath doesn't, we tend to use it to mean like somebody who's a liar or somebody who doesn't feel any kind of consequence of lying. It's just like we use the word neocon for anybody who is a war profiteer. No, neocon is a special term of art. And believe me, this does sound really weird, but there is a special place in my heart for the psychopath. They are the creme de la creme. They are very smart people. And I will submit, a little spoiler alert, Erika is not smart enough to be a psychopath. But we'll get to this. But now that we got this, because you have to sit down and have to be any kind of, you have to do the Hare list, and you have to look at all these other different criteria. Now, but keep in mind, public behavior invites this examination, this scrutiny, especially when it shapes a major, huge conservative institution, TPUSA, which, by the way, ain't going to be around much longer if reality sets in. So let's examine the patterns without excusing speculation or ignoring the human cost and all that. Let's do this. First, psychopathy and sociopathy both describe individuals with, this is important, profound deficits in empathy, remorse, and emotional depth. Okay? Empathy, or the embassy. Empathy, remorse, or emotional depth. Stop right there. To not be empathic, to not be able to feel, not sympathy, to not be able to understand what other people think. Even little kids know this. Remember, this all comes under the rubric of no appreciation of consequence. So anyway, no empathy, no remorse, no emotional depth. And it's often paired with kind of like a superficial charm. And this is where she kind of a manipulative grandiosity and a willingness to exploit others. I don't know if she's doing that. Psychopaths are not nice people. They target, they go after people. They're not just, and that doesn't mean, by the way, doesn't mean the killing. First of all, virtually the population is like maybe less than 10% are psychopaths, and of that, many people have never committed a crime. In fact, most people in prisons are not psychopaths. So remember, it's a rare disorder. But it can mimic, it's like the monarch butterfly and the viceroy. They're going to look different, but anyway, I digress. Psychopaths are, and this, frequently portrayed as, more calculated and genetically predisposed. And that's important. They're born with this. They have a low fear response. Their amygdala differences from the regular population, while sociopaths may be more impulsive and shaped by environment and might be, for lack of a better word, might be created. Psychopaths are almost born with this. James Fallon, not Jimmy Fallon, but James Fallon talks about the orbital cortex and this particular part of the brain directly behind the eye, which you can actually see in functional imaging. You can see actual differences in the brain of a psychopath. It's not just, little side note, remember, neurology is hardware, but psychiatry is software. Neurology is like Parkinson's, a stroke, Alzheimer's. It's a functional disrepair of the official organ, the matter of the brain and everything neuronally. Psychiatric disorders, it's a different story. Here's another difference. with neurological disorders, they don't exist in real time. But in psychiatric disorders, you'll see, yeah, everybody's got a little bit of these traits. Everybody's got a little bit of anxiety. Everybody's got a little bit of, but we're not clinically depressed, or we're not, we don't suffer from, antisocial personality disorder or borderline. We have a little bit of this. So with psychiatry, we have a little something. There's a certain degree of minor traits. We are not psychopaths. Some of this is you see it in certain politicians, but they're not necessarily psychopaths. Now, both psychopaths and sociopaths struggle with genuine, and I like this term, emotional reciprocity. See, pathological liars, however, meanwhile, they distort reality, they fabricate, they're fabulous, they prevaricate, and they do this to reality on a habitual basis, often to maintain control or image or power or reputation or status, sometimes overlapping with narcissistic or, I don't want to make this too complicated, cluster B traits. Narcissism, I'm not even going to get there. Narcissism, everybody's a narcissist, everybody's a psychopath, everybody's a neocon. Narcissism is a different story. Let's just don't go there. Let's just don't go there. This is not narcissism, all right? I'm leaning towards pathological liar. It's the garden variety. Remember when kids, who ate this? The dog ate my homework. Did you eat this? No. And they're covered with the ice cream or whatever it is. They're children. But it's almost like I will say whatever I have to do to either change reality or get out of the problem. But there's not a lot of depth involved in this. Her lies are not to manipulate or to hurt or to harm. Everything Erika Kirk says is to benefit and advance the persona, the being of Erika Kirk. Erika is not on trial in a clinical sense, but the volume of behavioral analysis from I don't want to give too much to them, but they're a little bit body language experts. There's a little something to that. To everyday viewers, all of this suggests something off script. The post assassination clips show her discussing Charlie's death with cheerfulness. You know the routine. Hey guys, all about that. Or excitement that she herself acknowledges is weird. And in one analyzed appearance, she whispers dramatically about that young man, the assassin, and then snaps back to a normal tone. She loses herself also in the performative. In the performance, she fancies herself a little bit of an actress, and she says, how do I act like this? What do I do? She'll snap into I'm a Christian, or I'm a Catholic, or we went and I got the St. Michael's medal, and then she can go from being an ardent, I don't want to say anti-Zionist, I don't think that's that, but just certainly not in favor of Israeli military activity, to the next day changing course after a phone call. This is not psychopathy. This is not sociopathy. This is just a pathological liar. This is somebody who is morally reprehensible, who will say anything and doesn't even care whether you believe it or not. She's so into her performance. Like she say, how did I do? What do you mean, how'd you do? Imagine if you were to say, how did I do? Well, nobody believes you. That's not what I care about. How did I do? How was my performance? Did I look hot? Did I look sad? Did I look beautiful? Did I cry? How did I look? Not how did I persuade, whether I'm believable. She has no interest in this whatsoever. None. This psychopath wants to fool you. He wants to manipulate you. He wants your soul. He is not there just to say stuff. He wants to manipulate, and he will say whatever he has to earn your trust. She's disinterested in anybody's trust. Doesn't care about it. She doesn't care. Now, a lot of folks have noticed mismatched I guess you would call them micro expressions, dry eyes during emotional appeals and looking upward as if, scripting responses. That's what we know. Now, contrast this with others. And there were some very interesting cases. Did you see this Pastor James Kaddis on a recent Bible 365 podcast? Visibly choked up discussing Erika's mother, Lori Franzl's illness. And Erika sits kind of expressionless with a flat monotone, offering a hollow half smile and no visible grief ripple. Now, fans of hers say, well, it's stoicism or it's faith. Other people see it as an emotional vacancy. That's interesting, too, which is another one. There's another category. This is just up completely. Erika, by the way, as you know, assumed the CEO and chair roles shortly after Charlie's death at UVU. And she vowed to expand TPUSA massively, thanking law enforcement and pledging all kinds of, continuity and, no problems, no interruptions, no hiccups. And earlier speeches sparked, or allegedly sparked, chapter surges, roles of fame. By the way, all of this framed as resilience, yet footage from and documentation from those days, smiling on podcasts, the photo ops, and rapid organizational moves. All of this completely clashed and was completely inconsistent with expected mourning. It was weird. It wasn't stoicism. It's like nothing registered. Again, that's another, that can also be somebody who's a subject of abuse, people who have been through horrible what am I trying to say? Deprivation. This is very, very difficult. Again, not necessarily a psychopathy. Now, again, if you look at the way she acts, you see a rehearsed quality with exhibitionistic, performative, choreographed touches. To touching Charlie's chair, Charlie baby references, dabbing dry eyes. If you notice, many people are suggesting, whispering signals. It kind of signals like deception awareness. People have really looked at this. And then these viral moments include her forgiving the Tyler Robinson in a Christ-like terms while appearing detached, and then, by the way, turning around and filing a motion for a speedy trial. Now, Candace Owens and others have amplified beautifully and articulated doubts, questionings, of course, of motives and the alleged and obvious inconsistencies around the assassination. In fact, Erika pushed back, calling claims, baseless lies and harassment, and we all grieve in our different ways, and I'm just a widow. The Dana Lesh, I'm a widow. Never addressing spot on, is there anything to this? Now, the Franz family, the connections with Lori and Dr. Jerry Franz fuel, by the way, deeper speculations now we get into some good stuff here. PSYOP adjacent circles, including alleged NSA ties, behavioral engineering whispers. Erika's pre-TPUSA profile was lower, so her sudden, centrality in this whole thing raises competence and authenticity issues. And by the way, TPUSA insiders, those people in the know, and ex-staff members reportedly still whisper about team issues and people there who discuss her fitness. There's no way around it. Low turnout at some events, no shows, leadership dramas, all of this add to this compounding the image of this organization completely on its last legs, unmoored, untethered, adrift, just floating. And the TPUSA crowd is doing nothing to ensure its viability and continued performance. Now, going back to this, grief, sorrow, something that is profoundly human, not loss, but grief. It's big differences. You can get into a lot of subtle nuances between these. But grief manifests variably, with some appearing numb, others, functional. And by the way, how you appear has nothing to, that may vary, but how people feel it is a different story. A lot of people say people feel it basically the same. How you show it. Look no further, almost, I hate to say it, I don't mean this disrespectfully, but the Kennedy family, absolute, profound experts in acting tough. And it's really sad. Caroline Kennedy, whose daughter, Tatiana, recently died, she was very stoic. That's courage. You've been raised with this your whole life. So I don't believe for a moment that she was like, no. But outward manifestation of grief is a different story. But Erika's case stands out due to consistency across all these layers and contexts, including emotionless affect on family illness, upbeat, post-tragedy, and defensive among criticism. It's weird. None of it rings true. None of it rings familiar. And by the way, critics might label it psychopathic traits, such as a lack of affective empathy, affective empathy, and impression management. But a former actress's viral analysis invoking Robert Hare's psychopathy checklist, HARE, this is the gold standard, which cited, by the way, superficial charm, shallow affect, manipulativeness. A lot of people are noticing this. But still, psychopath, leadership, by the way, leadership scrutiny, this is also critical. Leadership investigation and scrutiny intensifies because TPUSA's youth focus demands an authentic connection. If you think women are good at this, young people really can tell. And Erika's style, which is described as weird, kind of detached, off-putting, strange, performative, exhibitionistic, choreographed, it alienates where Charlie energized. Oh my God, Charlie was just, he was an anomaly. There was nobody like him. The observations of kind of like, the thin-skinned responses to backlash and pulling these grifter accusations. Let me tell you something. Folks, observers from the left and right, are piling on, and right-wing, by the way, critics see, and I'm sorry to keep using this left or right wing, but they see an absolute betrayal of Charlie's legacy. Now, is it sociopathy with impulsivity and poor planning under stress, or is it calculated lying to preserve power? Pathological lying fits with narrative control around grief, family and organizations. Folks who frame attacks as misogynistic, you've heard this one before too, people, or conspiratorial, while I guess other people see kind of like pattern recognition. Her Christian framing, this is very interesting. Her Christian framing with forgiveness and, these faith-driven contrasts, the observed flatness, all of this speaks of something which is so interesting. So going back, because there's no way to look at this without looking at the entire picture. In my humble opinion, in my humble opinion, she is a pathological, just a liar. A liar whose reason for lying is to perpetuate merely an image, a belief that she is under the belief of, does not require any kind of correction. Let me say one thing which is the most important about either psychopaths or sociopaths. The thing that they really don't have, and this is interesting, is a sense of eventuality, causation, a sense of accountability, a sense of consequence. This is the part which is the most interesting. A sense of consequence. They don't have this. They just don't have this. Two stories I've got to give you, and then that's it. This really says it all. They did a test one time. They did imaging, fMRI imaging, to see which parts of the brain are responding. Not an X-ray or something that shows like a tumor, but which parts are firing and in what particular sequence. So they told a group of psychopaths and a group of control. They had this little device on their finger. They said, at the count of 10, we're going to give you a mild electric shock. Well, it turns out they didn't, but it doesn't matter. The question is, how would people respond? To the control group, the non-psychopath group, you can see the part of the brains that deal with anticipation and fear and concern, those were firing because they knew something was coming. They knew some event was happening. It's called consequence. The consequence, by the way, is something in the future that you know is going to happen. Regular people were responding. Psychopaths didn't. Psychopaths did. You at the count of 10, okay. We're going to give you the whatever, yeah, okay. Because their head and their heart were disconnected. The head understood what was happening, but there was no reaction. This is the true psychopath. Doesn't understand. Has to learn how to respond. Here's the best one I've ever heard. And I love that. I don't know why I find this fascinating, but dig this. Have you ever been watching a TV show and you're really watching it, you're really engrossed in it, and all of a sudden something, like the other day my wife and I were watching something and something fell off the wall, like a clock or something, just lost its nail or boom. And we almost didn't even recognize it. We were just, oh. Because we were engrossed in interest. It was a documentary or something. However, if you're watching something where you're responding to it frightfully, if it's a Jaws or The Exorcist, and you know this is the scene, and you're wondering, here we go, and you're anticipating, oh my God, and because your heart's kicking in, and then all of a sudden, somebody were to say, boo! You will jump out of your seat. Where was it somebody said, boo? In the first case, like when the thing falls off the wall, you're like, oh. Why? Because in the first case where you don't react, you're looking at something, you're just saying, okay. Your brain is there. There's no alarm. Your heart's not on edge. You're not set for your amygdala, your limbic system, your response, your fight or flight isn't activated. You're watching something on dolphins. Isn't that interesting? Look at that. Oh, there's cetacean. So what they did was they showed people, and there's one group who were non-psychopaths, the control group. They showed them pictures of really bad morgue shots, murder scenes. I mean, really, stuff that most people don't ever see. And then they all of a sudden did like a stadium horn, like some noise, and they jumped out of their seat because as they were watching this, their heart was pounding. They were, head and heart. I know what it is, but oh my God, I'm reacting. And then they jumped. Psychopath, we're watching it like, interesting. Is that a shotgun to the face? Oh, okay. And then, they hit the noise and nothing. They could have been watching a documentary on dolphins. The head and the heart were not connected. The heart didn't react. There was no anything. She will react. I believe she has love. She doesn't love everybody. I think she was a manipulative person who was bred and trained by Laurie Frank, like a lot of women. Like remember the Paley girls. Remember Babe Paley and her sisters. The Cushing girls. This is before your time, but anyway, they were debutantes. They're going on. Get a man. Get a husband. You're trained broodmare. Princess Di to an extent. Princess Di. There are people who do this. They're all her life. She has been told, you're going to get something. You're going to try it on your own at first through some attempt at some kind of I don't know what you want to call it, some kind of what is it? Some reality TV show. You're going to try it with men. Maybe you could be a girlfriend. Maybe you could be the hot blonde. Okay, that didn't work. Maybe you'll try to be you're gonna be a real estate broker with the Corcoran Group in New York. That didn't work. Maybe you're going to be the head of a Romanian orphanage. Ooh, bad. Thankfully, that went away. Or maybe you're going to be a kind of a spook operative doing an industrial for EMPs. Again, anything. I will say anything, do anything. It's about me. Not because I'm lying. I will assume anything. Hollywood used to be filled, I'm sure it's true now, filled with them. You know where you see this right now? Look no further than Instagram. Look no further than girls who pretend to be things they are not. Absolutely inauthentic examples of people just pretending, lying, but not because they're psychopaths, but because they're just pathological liars. They will do anything, say anything to assume the position that they think will bring them the fame because they're looking for that all-elusive sense of fame. You love me. You think I'm beautiful. You'll notice me. You're proud of me. All her life, she's wants somebody to be proud of her. And she tacks on to somebody else. And when Charlie came along, it was perfect. Am I to say that she never felt any feelings of sadness? We will never know. I don't believe that's true. I don't believe that clinically she is smart enough to be a psychopath. I think she is just a pathological liar and does not understand. Listen, let me tell you something. If you go to Washington, from anybody from the Trump administration to the Clinton administration to Lindsey Graham to you name it, they will say anything today. No new taxes. And then flip. Not because they're psychopaths necessarily, but because they sold their soul. And they think, well, it's a white little lie. It doesn't matter. And frankly, they really don't care whether you feel betrayed or not because she doesn't owe you anything and you don't owe her anything. She's there for her own ride. So I hope this lends a perspective to it. If you look at DSM-5 analyses and the like, if you look at this. But I got to tell you something. She is somebody who cannot be trusted, cannot be in any way given any kind of position where human decency, feelings, and the like. I wonder how she is as a parent. I have no idea. I do want to know, did she ever connect with Charlie's parents to bring them in as grandparents and the sister? I don't know. Again, I want to be fair. I don't know anything about her. All I respond on is what I see in the public eye. That's it. And I think that is more revealing than anything you can imagine. So, my friend, I thank you. What do you think? I've got some questions for you to answer. Am I wrong? Am I right? Do you agree? What are your thoughts? Your comments are phenomenally insightful. And this is such a great, great story. And Candace has provided some of the most incredible insight there is, bar none. So I ask you, my friends, please weigh in, like the video, hit that little bell so you're notified of live streams and new videos, and whatever you do, comment as you see fit.